Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Our Future Podcast. I'm your host, Simran Sandhu. I'm joined by my co-founder and co-host, Michael Sakan. And this is the go-to entrepreneurship show for young people. We give you the tactics and strategies young people have used to win in business. And in today's episode, we've got two guys in totally different spaces, and they've built multi-million-dollar companies, and we're super excited for them and even more excited to tell their stories. Mike, hit us with the first guy.
First guy, I'm gonna start with the Kendrick Lamar line because he's been on my mind a lot with this recent beef. But swimming pools, everybody wants to dive in because my boy Boonim Laskin is a mid-20s founder. He's 25 years old, and he's built this company called Swimply, and it is Airbnb for pools. And he's got a pretty interesting story. He was looking for an opportunity to entertain his 11 siblings, and obviously going to the pool is a great idea, but only rich people have pools. And if you're lucky enough to have one, it's not like you use it all the time. So in his mind, he thought he could build a rental business around using people's pools, monetizing an underutilized asset, alike Airbnb, alike Turo, but for, this incredible, amenity that so many people have in their home, but don't use that much. So many people would love to enjoy those. So Swimply has now helped over 1 million people rent over 10,000 pools. They profit through, as you might expect, service fees on the platform. They've raised $50 million despite being rejected on Shark Tank. Boonim was on Shark Tank and got gunned down, but luckily it was televised right before the pandemic. So when everything shut down and pools were seen as like a safe, a low transmission risk venue, he was able to really capitalize. So yeah, turned down by the Sharks, didn't need them. Much better to go with private capital in the form of investors include the Lime co-founder Brad Bao and the CEO of Instacart, Fiji Simo.
I was about to say, I was like, this story sounds so familiar. And I definitely remember watching the Shark Tank episode with him. I can't say that it sounded like he was really trying to get a deal. It was like one of those, hey, I'm just trying to get awareness, because it was kind of sharky pitch, sharky deal all around. And it was like, okay, pretty clear. But I think these kind of businesses are great, right? It is an arbitrage. It is an ability to say, hey, you have this extra space. We've covered tons of different businesses and tons of different industries where it's like, you're not using X or Y, Z thing. Like, let's help you go make some extra money, right? That is the entire premise of Airbnb. That is the entire premise of, I guess even a way like an Uber, right? Like, it's just like, hey, people, instead of having to, having to use your own car or whatever, you can drive people around and like you can pay people and stuff like that. So I think any opportunity where you can optimize unused space or unused things is always great.
I mean, absolutely. The sharing economy is going to be huge. I couldn't imagine that many more homes will be built with swimming pools in the future. So, they're kind of a scarce asset in a neighborhood. You might only have 3 or 4 pools, right? Maybe less. So they're taking huge advantage of that. I am convinced that marketplaces like these are like the best businesses in the world, because other than like dealing with customer complaints and disputes, like these platforms charge a transaction fee that is material, like 10 to 15% in the case of an Airbnb or a Swimply. And you don't have any assets, depreciating assets on your balance sheet, right? You don't own any of this shit. You're not responsible for it. It's between private citizen to private citizen. I just love these businesses. And my girlfriend's family's in daily office rentals. And they use a platform called Peerspace, which is also in the rentals business. And it helps anybody who owns like event space or office space kind of like monetize that on a more daily or weekly level. And it also taps into the same like business model. And they keep like raising their rates, but like because they're the market, because they're where all the traffic is, like it would never make sense for one of these swimming pool owners to like make a website around their swimming pool and like put that on Google, right? So they have tremendous power. Once the network effects are in place, they're really hard to disrupt. And they just print on service fees. They're payments businesses. They're not anything other than payments businesses.
Well, that's the beauty of a marketplace business that's operated well, because this is kind of the business that you have to raise venture money for. It may sound really simple, like it's like, okay, I'm just helping someone, use somebody else's pool, but it's still like running, a 2x difficulty business, because you have to manage the supply side and you have to generate hype around there, and you have to generate hype on the demand side as well, right? So they have to get enough users to make it compelling for someone to want to like rent out their pool, right? Like if it's like, hey, I'm only getting one booking a month, this isn't that interesting. It's like, I don't even want to go through the hassle of like trying to clean this up or like trying to navigate this and set up these portals or whatever, trying to get them all set up. So I think that's the challenge, is like you have to be able to raise a lot of money for this and then execute really well on both sides. And then you have to be able to keep that retention high as well, right? Like I think, again, if there's a small number of these pools that exist in your local area, and say, it's a really hot day, me and everyone wants to go rent out someone else's pool in the area. It's like, okay, well, if I go on the app or whatever, and there's never a pool that I can use, or it's always booked up, I'm probably just going to leave the platform. It's like, all right, screw this. There's like never anything available. So definitely a hard business, but I think it's cool that like they made it this far, because I remember watching that episode and I was like, I think this is a novel idea, but I don't know if this could ever be really big.
Yeah, I mean that's probably a huge question for them. Is like could it even be a tiny fraction of the size of an Airbnb? Like even is the market even big enough? Is there demand enough? Right? Like for me, like if I have a membership to an athletic club and they have a pool, like that would just be absorbed in my gym membership cost. The average price to book a pool for an hour on Swimply is $45. So, again, I understand why people are doing it. It could be for events, for parties, just like kind of like private swimming, if that's what you're into. They've expanded into like renting backyard spaces. So now they're focused on pickleball courts and tennis courts. Yep. And they are hoping that because since most of their transaction volume comes between May and September, they can diversify a bit more into like pickleball courts. So they're looking at private pickleball courts in Austin, California, and I think New York, or Texas, California, New York, where it's like, a little bit more of year-round play. And then people can monetize those. So a lot of people also have private tennis courts, private basketball courts. I mean, that's something that they could expand into too. If you add on enough markets to a decently large market, I mean, you can come away with a good share of something, right? I mean, their goal just needs to be to hobble now all these kind of unique assets that people have in their homes and make them shareable.
Yeah, I mean, I think they found a unique wedge with the pools. I think in hindsight, though, if I had to guess, they probably wouldn't have started with the pools, like knowing what they know now. That's probably the harder one. Like, I think, letting people use other people's basketball courts, or like letting them use, I don't know, like the pickleball stuff. Those are probably a little bit easier than like trying to rent out your pool, I'm guessing, just because you got to clean the thing. It's also just expensive and stuff. Like, people do so much dumb shit.
Okay, I get that, but I disagree in that like heating a pool is like an expensive endeavor, and maintenance is too. So giving people the ability to cover their costs through rentals is probably the most attractive part of it. I remember friends whose families never heated their pool because it would require so much electricity.
But no, I think that's fair. There's probably a level or aspect to that that's really enticing. But if I look at the liability or the insurance level of this, I can name like 10 different times where a bunch of young kids like showed up, like even us just being idiots in like high school, and like someone like doing some dumb shit off the diving board, and really hurting,
breaks his chin or just starts bleeding in the pool or something.
Yeah, and it's like, do you really want like a kid to crack his head like in your pool? Even if it's not technically your fault, like there is some level of risk in that model. But I think from a branding standpoint, the way I would label this is like a marketplace for fun. Like it's anything that is recreationally entertainment related. I think there's a huge branding opportunity there.
That's in private hands.
It's pools.
Yeah,
exactly.
I love the pickleball idea is cool. I mean, trust me, if I've got my own pickleball court, I'm not renting that shit out, bro. It's gonna hear just little like plastic balls getting hit all day in my mansion. No way.
Yeah, that's an interesting point though that you bring up, which is, hey, if you really have the means to be able to buy a lot of these things, right? You're probably not that motivated from the money standpoint. Like, you know what I mean? Like, do you really need an extra $150 or whatever, if you're like, if you got millions in the bank and you're in a really, really nice house, do you really need to rent out your pickleball court? My guess is probably
Dude,
not.
just a side note on pickleball courts. I've heard of I heard of this guy who um he's in like he was started his a lead gen business for kind of like pool maintenance or pool construction companies, and then pivoted to just do lead gen for people
Yeah.
who wanted to have pickleball courts built because it's such a hot category. That to me is interesting because for one, they're cheaper than pools to build, and two, there in a lot of cities there aren't enough pickleball courts. Like it's actually an underserved need in the market. So there could probably be potential for people to build pickleball courts strategically. Say mom or dad or grandpa or uncle has a place, right? Either doing a profit share if you put down some money for the construction, market through these platforms. Like that could be kind of a play. Like it could be smart.
Dude, is it really that challenging to build a
It's
pickleball
not.
court? I was like walking through Central Park and there was like, it's literally just
You
an
need
open piece of
fence.
land
Yeah,
with a
you
net
need a
on it.
certain amount of
Like,
space, and you need to pour concrete, right? And you need a net. But that's about it.
maybe there's the next big real estate opportunity. It's like, forget apartments and forget all this other stuff. We're just gonna go in
Yeah.
the business model of buying open land and putting nets around the entire place. What other ideas do you have around this kind of business model, or things that you think someone could just jump in and go run with here? Would
I
that
don't
be
know.
a
How
thing
about
be
this
for
one,
you?
right? Like I would personally love to um for one, not have to if I want to like go to I think I've discussed this before, but if I want to go to like a fitness class or a different gym, I don't want to have to pay like the exorbitant day pass to like use that gym just like one or two times, right? Um, Another one is furniture in my apartment. Like most places, like I kind of only want to live like a year or two. Like I feel like that's a lot of young people in their early 20s. So just being able to rent furniture, but not at exorbitant rates. If you've ever tried to rent furniture for one of these furniture rental companies, they'll completely gouge you. So I think that would be a smart one.
Yeah.
Couches would be great. Maybe TVs would be great. A lot of people have stuff like this in storage hanging around.
I got an interesting one. It's a little out there, but I think there's an opportunity to do this. I don't know how you insure it per se. Like, I think there's a lot of risk with it, but luxury items. Think like watches, think boats, think like maybe even really, really nice cars. Yeah, you know what I mean? Because like let's take a watch for example, right? I think, you want to spend 20 grand, 25 grand on a Rolex or AP. But realistically, how often are you going to wear the thing? Like, even if you're going into work, you're probably not going to be that guy that's like stunting on everybody and all your employees. Like so it would be really cool to be able to, I don't know, wear it just for like maybe special occasions, especially if there was a way to get a lot of variety. You know what I mean? Like it's like, oh, I really want to wear this kind of watch for this kind of event, and this would be really, really cool. Or like, take other luxury items within that thing. I bet girls would eat this up, with like specific kind of accessories and stuff. And I know like technically there are like really, really nice rental opportunities and stuff. I know this exists with dresses and stuff, but I don't really know that anyone has done a really, really good job at this, from like kind of this arbitrage play of, hey, take someone being able to make, a few extra $100 or whatever, letting someone rent out their watch for the night, and being able to do something like that, and knowing that, maybe there's some kind of insurance policy against it, so if they like take it and run with it, you would get paid out and then some. But like something around that I think could be kind of
I like
interesting.
it. I mean, everyone's trying to flex. I think the insurance and the liability side is like what makes it a bad idea. But I think like it makes sense on its head. Like, with people are now buying and running fleets of like I love when these rental or shareable businesses create like little new waves of entrepreneurs. Like the guy I rented a Beamer from
Yeah.
some guy in Austin, and he was running a fleet of like 3 brand new cars, and he's paying the lease or he's paying the financing, and he's doing all the Tarot thing. And there's probably a spread to be
Yep.
made in there somewhere, right? If you manage it properly, and there's definitely risk, but there's insurance and stuff. So I don't know if you can rent someone your 60, 70, 80, 100, $200,000 car on Turo, which you can, there's got to be some policies in place for something like an AP. If there isn't, why isn't there insurance that covers products like that? You'd have to like build like verticalized insurance with this platform, because I don't know, very expensive assets can be insured. They're just not really being applied to like the personal luxury and collectibles market. So I think that could work.
Yeah, some kind of tracking would be important. I don't know how you'd be able to build it in. Maybe it's like on the dial of the watches or like accessories, like kind of in a discreet way. Um, but that would be like really, really interesting. And I could see like a lot of young people using something like that. And that could be an interesting wedge into kind of, what this guy at Swimply is doing, where he starts out with one specific thing and then kind of branches out after he gets people to adopt it.
Absolutely. Yeah, we'll see where they end up going. But that's a lot of money raised and just a cool concept that's brought to life now, operating in 3 countries. Another cool story that I liked from them is when they were looking to expand the platform, they just looked on Google Maps to see what houses had pools and then just went straight to door-to-door sales, which, I don't know, fun, scrappy tactic that I should impart on you, all you young founders, before we move on to the next story.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's go ahead and move on to the next story then. So, there's this guy named Andy Mewborn. He's raised millions to go build the Canva for B2B go-to-market team. So they've got over 4,000 users. And what's cool is like the company hasn't even fully launched yet. The company's called Distribute, and they've created an all-in-one solution where you can create and share all of your sales collateral. So think like business cases, one-pagers, mutual action plans, and like call follow-ups. But I think the timing for this product is what is really great about this, because I think there's so many MarTech and sales tech tools coming out, and there's a lot of software bloat that exists right now. So I think naturally we're going to see like software continue to consolidate, and people are going to seek out these all-in-one solutions where they get everything they need. And then I also like the fact that it's like focus on the conversion layer, because the closer you are to revenue, the better and easier it is to show ROI for your product. So not only are people more likely to give you a chance, but they're more likely to stick around. And I'm just bullish on Andy in general. He also built Taplio before this, which was like a LinkedIn growth tool that he sold for millions of dollars after building it and selling it in 9 months.
Wait, so he's exited Taplio now? Did you just meet with this guy? That's crazy.
Yeah. So I met with this guy, and I thought he was really, really.
You reached out to him, and so with Taplio, that was just a tool to help people create more LinkedIn content, like analytics and like making carousels. Like it was almost like a Canva for LinkedIn content.
That's correct. I mean, he was early. Like he was doing this stuff before like GPT-4 was like out per se, and everyone was just building these like AI wrappers. So he was just thinking about like tooling around LinkedIn, and he was like, hey, a lot of people are looking to grow on there, so let me just build out this solution where it can, help people grow their LinkedIn pages and stuff. And then he partnered with a few other guys that were building like Tweet Hunter, and had built other tooling like this for the other platforms. And he was like, hey, no one has done this for LinkedIn. Let me go do it. So they like partnered up, and then like he just went crazy on distribution. Like Andy's a huge name on LinkedIn. He's got like 200,000 followers, and like the dude puts out so much content. So now like he's just got his eyes on like a much bigger site, which is like, how do I shrink people's go-to-market stack? Like, you're seeing all of these like GPT-4 wrappers where someone is building like one specific tool on the go-to-market level, like, the proposal tool that you and I have been talking about looking at. And he's like, screw having to sign up for 10 of these freaking things. Like, why can't there just be one solution where you can manage like everything? And so a good way to think about it is like this is like Canva for this B2B go-to-market stuff, because you can do everything. You can design out everything, you can track everything. And like it's all like easy to create.
That's so cool.
Share.
So Canva for B2B software, are they doing like mainly for like software companies and such? So like, probably not like D2C where they're doing like paid Instagram ad design. It's more of like, what are they trying to design in there? Like what are you creating when you go into this platform?
Yeah, like one pagers and stuff. So like one pagers, like follow-up plans, like white papers, blogs, whatever, right? So it's like anything content related that someone would need to create, any sales collateral someone would need to share
Got
with
it.
somebody. Like think like for us, like a media kit, it would just host and
I
store
love this
all of this,
idea.
and it has like the track. So he's just brought it all in house, and he's about to go crazy with it because like the dude has just cracked distribution with these he's actually just a really big name in B2B software. Like the fact that he has 4,000 users, and again he hasn't launched it yet, which is
There's
crazy.
something to be said for just saving people time and energy and going and accessing content from all these different sites. Also, like nobody's organized on their desktop. They've downloaded a file like 15,000 times. They keep using. So yeah, providing a central location for marketing assets, I think, is key. Revision history, keeping the most up to date stuff. Like, how many times do you think an employee at a company sends out like an old version of the PowerPoint, right? Or like forgot a key number? Like, I
Totally,
feel like that's like a pretty big problem. These
totally.
assets are all living in these little silos, whether it's Figma, Canva, um, Google Drive. I've dealt with this before myself. Like when key investor materials, DocSend, right? Key, agency materials are can't find them, or it takes me forever to go and export them out again. So like keeping a current up to date armory of all kind of your go to market weapons in terms of like, your one pagers, your scripts, your sales scripts, things like that. I just think it should all live under the same roof.
It's interesting too because I asked him, "Are you trying to be a source of record or a source of truth?" I was like, "Listen, every time we've talked to somebody in sales tech, like that's always been the thing they said." He's like, "Dude, hell no, I don't want to do that shit. Like, it's essentially like a red ocean. I want to like just be, I just want to focus on the conversion side. Like, all I care about is like." Just being like this source of truth for content. Like he's like, if I'm going to be the source of truth for anything, it's not going to be a CRM. I just want to be the source of truth for content. And I was like, I love this because he's playing his own game. It's not one of those things where he's like trying to adjust his pitch based on what he thinks is hot or like what he thinks that other people would find interesting per se. Like he's just like, no, I know exactly what I'm going to go do. I'm gonna go shoot my shot with this business. I'm gonna go raise millions, and I'm gonna go build it big, and then I'm gonna go sell this thing.
There's something to be said about following your gut. When you experience an issue or a problem and just deciding that you're going to go after it, raise money, build a business around it. Something I've been dealing with, and I assume a lot of young entrepreneurs feel the same way, is you come up with like a good idea that could definitely work. And then you go and try and talk to people in the space and they try and push you off of it because nobody's in an industry they truly love and there aren't major issues in. So I don't know, just being able to say, fuck it, I'm going to build this shit and I don't care what anyone thinks. And I believe it has legs and it is solving a problem, I think can be enough sometimes because too many founders come up with 5 different ideas and then just get kind of weak on them once they get a little bit of pushback from experts or try and do customer validation. So I don't know, man. I feel like this like rabbit hole of like trying to get validation on your ideas kind of like a blessing and a curse. It can be bad for some founders and good for others.
Well, I agree with you. I mean, it also doesn't help that like software in general is so saturated now. Like it's just getting super, super competitive. And so, there's not really that many pure white space opportunities that have existed. And I don't mean to sound like so pessimistic about it, but that's just like the reality. Like things are changing so, so quickly. Like, you see this open AI announcement that came out yesterday. Google had their thing out today. And it's like, dog, the world is just changing so quickly. Like, how do you plan out, 3 years, 5 years out down the road when like there are exponential changes going on a week to week basis? Like, that's just super, super hard. That said, I think there are some rule of thumbs that like you just have to factor in if you are going to build in software, which is here are the 4 things you need to nail. If you at least want to even have a chance. One is like branding. You have to make sure like you have a moat around branding and people really resonate or like your product or like the messaging or the vision around what you guys are doing, right? You have to have some kind of spunk there. I think you also have to have like a really good sales process and lead gen process as well. Like, I think a lot of people have been talking about how cold email is dead. And I think the case is that's not exactly true. I think generic cold email is dead, being very boring. But I think if you can still find creative ways to align that messaging, you can still stick out. In some way, you can make the argument that because most of what people are getting in their inboxes is trash, like 99% of it, just a little bit of creativity will actually help you stick out, and people will actually be like, wow, like for once, not a shit email. You know what I mean? Like I'm actually willing to talk to this guy. um, so I think that's one interesting thing. I think you also have to have a great product. I think, if you become one of those people that just goes distribution and sales all in, like, which is a lot of what these agency guys do. Like they run an agency, they then go build software kind of opportunistically around it. They've got the sales side down, but the product isn't always there. And so I think like you'll end up leaking. It's like people will be willing to take a chance on you because they do think what you're building is interesting and it fits a need. But if it doesn't like do what it says it's going to do, or even get to like, 90%, maybe even 80% of the things you said, they will churn. And then, that's a problem in itself. And I think most companies struggle with retention. And then I think the last thing that you have to factor in is just like speed. Like, I think you have to keep shipping out features every single day, like even on a week to week basis. And I think that's where a lot of the incumbents struggle, is like they just can't ship out that quickly. You'll see these venture kids on Twitter. They're like, hey, just announced this. I've got like my friend Nico at Default. That dude's launching something every single day. And I think there's actually a strategic advantage in that like you can, every time you have a new feature launch, it's almost like a new announcement per se, right? It's like you're just launching the company all over again. And it's a great way to keep generating buzz and hype. So, it may be like one of those annoying things where it's like, hot damn, like how many more things do we need to ship? Like this is, I just want to build like a easy to use solution, but recognize that could be your advantage because it just makes you sound like you're just doing so much and your customers are going to pay attention to that.
Yeah. Stuff. And like nobody's trying to hate when you're trying to like announce new stuff. It's like they're probably annoyed, but they can't say shit. That's what I love about LinkedIn. One guy made a post, and do you know that generic like graphic you can put where it's like starting a new job and it's like a little like blue teddy bear with like a yellow one, or it's like a blue balloon. He's like, hey everyone, just excited to say that I'm using this graphic that everyone uses to announce a new job, and it's going to get crazy likes because no one's going to read this. And it had like thousands of likes.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Dude, LinkedIn is a cheesy
Dude, you have to be cheesy. Sure. You have to be cheesy as a founder and be like unapologetically like constantly flexing on people. I think I did a really good job of that at Our Future. Like, I mean, I would always pull out a bigger guest. I would always pull out, stats and be bombastic about what we were doing. I was like, excited to announce this week we had more viewers than the Wall Street Journal or some bullshit like that. I'd be like, at Michael Bloomberg coming for you. I don't know. Stuff like that keeps you in people's minds and keeps you getting likes and keeps you the attention on you. So I really resonate with that.
I think that's a good point because people may hate, but they also don't want to bet against you. Like if you're almost that delusional to where it's like you made a simple feature update as like this big announcement and you really come off as like, hot damn, he thinks he's like changing.
Oh yeah, dude. Well, that guy, Zach Murray we had on one of the first episodes, he put out like a product demo and the guy thought he was Steve Jobs and he's stealing half-baked Instagram ads. Like, come on, man. You gotta do it. You gotta lean in.
Well, I think that's the thing, though. It's like, do I really want to compete with this guy? Like, he takes this super seriously. Like,
the good thing is we're in America, okay? And in this, God bless America, because I just saw the Launch House guy is now building a longevity company. What the fuck? God bless this country, man. You can make a change.
Well, that's interesting. You're telling me Launch House is now a longevity company?
That actually makes a lot of sense. I'm talking what makes way less sense, which is the dude who started Launch House is now trying to like extend people's lives.
Interesting.
He was only trying to make their lives shorter by putting a bunch of crypto kids in that little house or something, man. I don't know. I thought that was funny.
Launch House is a wild concept, right? Wild in that they literally were just like, here are mansions, and we're going to rent these things out and just bring a bunch of like young founders together. And
okay, so it was one of those ideas where it's like, okay, it's cool, but something's going to go wrong.
Yeah.
And everything that could have gone wrong went wrong. But it speaks to human
Yep.
optimism and that people thought that that couldn't happen. Like, you always want to believe like the worst isn't going to happen. It's like, you know what? My mom's gone on vacation. I'm gonna throw a party, and nothing's gonna go wrong, right? It's that optimism and the human nature that keeps us moving the dial.
Gotta be
Yeah,
that way because there's tons of people out there that will tell you no, and they'll give you all the reasons in the world why you can't do something. And I think if you were to just listen to them, there would be like no innovation possible because like someone's always got a reason for why what you're trying to do doesn't
that's what
make sense, why
sucks.
it's not a real
Yeah,
problem, why you're not the right person to go do this, blah blah
yeah,
blah blah.
it sucks.
Um, a
Everyone's
lot
gonna
of
tell
haters.
you not to do your business, which sucks. If I would have asked
Yeah,
everyone in media if I should do like a short form video media company, nobody would have told me to do it. Like, it would be a dumbass idea. Like, it would just be
yeah.
useless. Like, they would never have expected it to be able to get us the opportunities that it did. So yeah, it sucks in a way, because wouldn't it be great to come up with a business idea and everybody's like, that makes sense, go do it. Like, don't, like, that's genius.
Well, I think people you have to hit some level of like, I don't know, I guess the buzzword is product market fit. I'm going to say critical mass, where it's like the narrative changes. People can start seeing you have some kind of success and be like, oh shit, I see it now. And it's like now it's unpopular to bet against you. And so out of nowhere, they're now your biggest fans, which I think is a crazy switch. Um, I had people roast me all the time when I was doing like the news podcast stuff. Like they were like, "Bro is wasting his time," and they'd be like, why is he even doing this? It's so stupid." And it's like, "Oh, our future sells." And it's like, dude, I always believed in you. Like, I I've always thought what you guys have made is really, really dope and blah, 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 blah. And then there's always some like soliloquy on like why they always think you were going to make it. And it's just like, it's just funny more than anything. It's just like hindsight. It's just like, wow, like people really do change
Yeah,
up.
people do, man. It's almost like people are always going to support you until they see you're doing better than them. And then it becomes more of like envy. And then if they're doing better than them, there's two types of people. One will either like come out and support, and the other will just be like fake and not be open to
Yeah.
accepting your glory.
We're getting a little sad here, man. Getting to like the roots of human nature.
You've seen it firsthand.
But I will say this.
Yeah.
I will say this. It is still important to be talking to people. And I think, we hear a lot about, product led growth. We hear a lot about like community led growth. And one thing we haven't heard too much about is conversation led growth. And this is the equivalent of like brute forcing your way into success, right? So, it's something he was telling me around like Taplio is that he was hitting up 50 people a day having conversations and just like letting it spread organically because it's great to use your distribution once you have it and once you have an audience, but like the realistic chance is most people listening to this do not have big audiences. So brute force your way into it because if you are at least semi interesting to the people you're talking to, like chances are, if you're talking to 50 people a day consistently, it doesn't matter if you're feeling good, whatever, like you're just consistent with that. There is at least a few people just by the law of numbers that will find what you're doing is at least semi interesting and will talk about it with others or are willing to willing to be helpful. Or maybe they can connect you with an influencer that is like the perfect partner in your business and can help give you that leverage. So I think conversation led growth is like an underutilized tactic and people don't talk about it as much.
Love it, man. That's an inspirational note to end things off. And, to put some context, you talk to this guy because you had a business idea that aligns with some of the work he's done. So, just goes to show, follow curiosity, go down rabbit holes and see what you can learn. But cool story. Thank you, everybody, for listening to another episode of Our Future Podcast. We love doing this every week, and make sure to leave us some feedback on YouTube or rate us on Spotify. And as always, I want you guys to stay frosty. No more breaks. We'll be back with an episode next week. Simi Sandu is also